General Director of Ministry and Innovation, ladies and gentlemen, this is a big day for Stockholm. My name is Anders Egelrud, and I'm co-host for this event and one of the founders of Stockholm Data Parks. In my ordinary job, I'm CEO of Stockholm Exergi, one of the largest energy supplier of the Stockholm region. This is a big day for Stockholm. Together, two key sectors, the data center sectors and the energy sector, in a common interest of setting up sustainable innovation, sustainable solutions, and better services for our customers. I was thrilled already when we agreed with DCD to locate this conference here in Stockholm. I'm overwhelmed today when I know that we have gathered more than 300 industry leaders from more than 35 countries, which are amazing. And I can't find no better place than Stockholm to meet, discuss, and jointly find ways of how we together actually can find smarter solutions, make better use of our assets, and also mitigate climate change. Because we need to mitigate climate change as well. If we look around the world, the energy demand is growing fast. It's forecasting to grow with 30% the last 10 to 15 years. At the same time, fossil fuels stands for more than 80% of the total energy. The data center business grow by 10 to 15% annual, which needs more energy. We all know that. And in order to tackle that, we need to invest more in green energy, more resource-efficient solutions, and together combat climate change. It doesn't help that the investment in green energy is more than 60%. It will not help with a growth of 30% of the energy demand in the world. It means also that cities, companies, and nonetheless utilities like ours and the data center business needs to be more involved in creating more sustainable solutions, more efficient solutions in order to handle this challenge. Some players has already tackled the challenge. And I can see players which are investing in additional electricity capacity when they are building data centers, which are, of course, a huge advantage. But there are a lot of problems which remains and which we need to deal with together. Today's agenda is packed with exciting topics and brilliant speakers. And I hope you will all join me in my hope to learn more, to be inspired, and also to make new contacts. And before I hand over to George, which comes from DCD, I would like to wish you a warm welcome to my city, Stockholm, to today's conference, and to Stockholm Data Park. Warm welcome to you all. And George, thanks.
Hi everyone, thank you Anders, and thank you Stockholm Data Parks for co-hosting this wonderful event. Welcome to DCD Energy Smart. My name's George Rockett. I'm the CEO and founder of DatacenterDynamics, a company whose name I hope has become synonymous with great debate across this industry and all over the world. Back in 2005, we produced the first ever event dedicated to energy efficiency within this sector. I can proudly say we blew the lid off this topic. It was held in London, and at that time, Microsoft's Christian Bellardi, he was with HP, I think, at the time, he first spoke about an equation to express energy efficiency, power usage effectiveness. I imagine people will be talking a lot about it today. Many major initiatives to tackle the doomsday power consumption scenarios were formed around this time, including the Green Grid and the EU Code of Conduct, both of whom are represented here today. And their contributions, they've been significant in terms of developing best practices and educating the market. In fact, it's widely recognized that the data center industry's response to energy efficiency has been great and wide. Now, the efforts to explain the complex nature between the exponential growth of data requirements and power consumption have been many, and they are ongoing, and they take us from Moore's law at the beginning through to Jevons paradox and on and on. To put this into context, a friend of mine shared with me what we call a back of the fag packet calculation, and somebody just scribbles something down. And it was about understanding the journey that we've been on since the beginning of the millennium. So he demonstrated how the IT load of a 3 megawatt data center with 2,000 racks and 30,000 square feet, 3,000 square meters, in 2001 in that facility could be delivered today in a single rack. So we've seen all of that compact down into a single rack, and we're still building data centers, all right? So it's an incredible growth journey that we've been on. PUE, rightly or wrongly, has dominated the headlines for a long time. Now, with the power chain within the data center, what we're calling today from substation to server, now scrutinized from every angle, we want to move the discussion forward to envelop the energy supply chain from the energy source to the substation. So this event's been created to explore the potentially symbiotic relationship between data centers, smart grids, smart cities that integrate seamlessly to provide energy smart, there's the name, energy smart infrastructure. And what better place to hold this discussion than here in Stockholm, where you are leap years ahead of the rest of the world in this debate. This is part of a global discussion as well. We're curating it in other locations this year. We're going to be in San Francisco talking energy smart at a US level, and we're going to be in Singapore, who this year, the Singapore government, as always, is making strides in this direction. So hopefully we can take what we've learned here and push it over there. I think that's the direction of the flow of this discussion, the way it's going to be. I'd like to say a special thank you to Marima Janik. Marima, this young lady over here has produced this event, and she has gone to great lengths to ensure the integrity of today's conference program. And I'd like to thank all the experts that she convinced to participate, many of whom have flown in to Sweden to take part. Thank you all. I'd like to hand you over to Thomas Solzhenitsky from Business Sweden, but first, can we give a round of applause to Marima and her team for putting this on?
Hi everyone and good morning. My name is Tomas Sokolnitsky and I work for the Swedish Trade and Invest Council, where I'm responsible for anything that we do towards the data center industry as the arm for the Swedish government. We work under the brand name of Data Centers by Sweden, and you'll find everything about us on our website, datacentersbysweden.com. If you want to take any contacts, we have team here, of course, in Stockholm and in some other markets around the world. The Swedish government has been very actively involved, of course, here in Sweden in wanting to work actively with the industry and developing the industry, not the least with the recent legislative change for the energy tax here in Sweden, so improving the conditions for the data center industry. We also have a very broad political consensus in Sweden around the national energy strategy, which is very important. And for us here in Sweden, of course, sustainable use of energy is critical and key to everything that we do. I was meant to introduce the State Secretary this morning. Unfortunately, he fell ill yesterday, so apologies on his part. But I'm nevertheless very, very pleased to welcome Director General Rosen. from the Ministry of Enterprise and Innovation. Carl is responsible for research and innovation policy, but not the least the, I think, quite hefty task of working with the state-owned companies here in Sweden. He also has a background in investment banking, previously in the US and here in Sweden. So without further ado, Carl Rosen, please welcome on stage.
So, thanks. Thank you very much for inviting me. And ladies and gentlemen, you are extremely welcome to Stockholm. And I will talk to you a little bit about the Swedish policy when it comes to data center and digitalization. But before that, I want to do one thing. And that is to congratulate you all, everyone that is sitting in the room here, because you are very fortunate. You're working in an industry that is expanding in a tremendous pace. There's technological change almost every quarter, and a lot of opportunities out there. So it's it's a tremendously interesting industry with a lot of business opportunities. My first acquaintance when it comes to data centers was in actually around year 2000. I was working in Silicon Valley for a Swedish company. And I remember I came down to Sun because they were introducing a blade server that was really state of the art. And at the time they actually, I don't remember exactly, but I remember that they talked about, distributed data centers, which at that time was something really new. And now I'm standing here and well, I see you all in the room. There's been a tremendous development. And this is, of course, something that we have noticed in Sweden too. And as you probably know, we basically have no choice in Sweden. We have to be innovative and we have to be open to the world. And we have to be early adopters, otherwise we will have huge problems. And in the last years, we have done tremendous investments in digitalization. I will come to that. And if you look at productivity growth in Sweden, 42% of the productivity growth can be attributed to digitalization and IT investments. And what we are seeing right now is that, of course, a lot of this productivity is focused on in the high-tech industry. But now we see that the productivity growth is gradually moving towards other sectors as well. So we really think we are really early out there when it comes to the benefits of digitalization. We all know the buzzwords of the industry now, and I'm quite proud to say that here it's not only buzzwords. We think that artificial intelligence and machine learning is, and we see it in practice in the industry, they are the drivers of Industry 4.0. There are more things to be done, of course, but we are gradually moving there. Internet of Things makes the physical world visible to AI. And when it comes to connectivity, we believe very much in 5G, of course. And all these new technologies have something in common, and that they need more and more data capacity, and they need basically more and more data centers. So maybe we have only seen the very beginning of the connected society and the digital society. And we embrace, and in Sweden, we are building ecosystems around this. And that is what we what is a key in our policies when it comes to innovation, industry, digitalization, and so forth. That's the only way for us to be successful, we think. And you can ask, how successful are we then? Well, I think you are salesmen and saleswomen, all of you, in one way or another. You have seen a lot of league tables out there, but these are, of course, league tables that are quite interesting. And regardless, if you look at Innovation Union scoreboard in the European Union, we are ranked number 1. We are ranked number 2 in the world when it comes to a global innovation index and so forth. So we are very proud of having these positions, of course, and as I said, we have no choice. We have to be innovative. We have to be open towards the rest of the world. We think that's a prerequisite for being successful in all other aspects of being a responsible society. And when it comes to Sweden is one of the fastest growing countries in the world, in Europe, when it comes to GDP growth, and also the unemployment rate is quite low compared to other countries in Europe. And all this is, of course, driven by private investments in private companies. Well, some state-owned companies, I'm responsible for them too, but but still, the growth is the state-owned company sector in Sweden is quite small compared to other countries. Of course, we love when we get new investments coming into Sweden. Last year, we welcomed Amazon Web Services to 3 cities in Sweden, and all this is, of course, an important contribution to our economy, and that is something we want to build on when it comes to data centers. Should also mention that one important part of the ecosystem in Sweden is that we have quite a vibrant startup community. I think we have produced at least 7 unicorns the last couple of years in Stockholm, which is good. Okay, you're here to do business, and why why is Sweden such an interesting country when it comes to data centers? Well, I think that's quite easy to say. I have a couple of things. One is that there is a digital maturity, and we've talked to enterprises and people in the industry, and I think it's very important to have people that actually understand digital matters and that they actually speak English. That's an important thing. We have that, and we have people that are early adopters when it comes to new digital phenomenon. Another part is, of course, access to green electricity at competitive prices. This is especially for you that are in the B2C business, very important, of course, that you can show that you have a limited climate impact. We have the advantage of having a high share of renewable energy in the energy mix. So 60%, and 60% is the highest in the European Union when it comes to electricity production, is actually coming from renewable resources. That is, of course, a part of a long-term policy. But I mean, compared to most other countries, it's a tremendous starting point actually to have 60% of the energy, electricity coming from renewable sources. And I think my colleague from Business Sweden already mentioned that we have, here's a little bit more, let's put it this way, we have quite low taxes on data centers. that is what we have done. And last year we actually decided to move large-scale data centers into the definition of industries who enjoy reduced taxes on electricity. And you can talk to the people from Business Sweden, and this is something that makes it very interesting to have a data center in Sweden. I just want to mention one thing that is very important for us, and that is skills. I think that's, we all know that's a challenge for most countries. There is a lack of, especially now, a lack of people with relevant skills in both in university but also in vocational training. And we are constantly developing our university system and school system to meet these demands. And in that respect, it's also important to have people in the universities, both when it comes to teachers and students, that are ready to adapt to new technologies. Okay, what can we do as a government on top of this? What is it that we can do? One thing is, of course, to have a competitive innovation policy, and we have a tremendous ecosystem when it comes to innovation policy. It comes to the innovation authority. It comes to how you get finance, both when it comes to loan and equity, how you can test your products, and so forth. So that it's a very thorough ecosystem when it comes to innovation. And still we have a lot of challenges and possibilities. World Economic Forum recently said that, well, there is basically no country that has used all the potential that is in Industry 4.0, sorry. And that is something that we really see. There's still a lot of potential in the industry when it comes to digitalization. Apart from being close to business, I think it's important to understand the context of how this innovation ecosystems has been built up. One is the fact that the unions, a little bit surprised, I can see, and the government have a close cooperation when it comes to innovation issues. The unions are not trying to stop development. They are rather adapting to it, and that's an important part. Also, there has been a tremendous amount of cooperation between industry and government. One example is Vattenfall, which I think is represented here, which is a 100% state-owned company that's been developing a lot of things together with ABB, and so forth. So a lot of cooperation between industry and government. Of course, we have developed, like every country, but we are trying to be smart and keep the strategies together. So we have strategy when it comes to digitalization, smart industry, of course, broadband strategy, and of course we have the climate strategy actually to be fossil fuel free 2045. That's quite an ambitious target, but we are actually getting there. So I just want to conclude with an example of how we work together. These are programs that actually were initiated by our Prime Minister. And the belief is that we need to work together to solve the problems of society, regardless if it's travel and transport, smart cities, life sciences, circular and bio-based economy, connected industry, and new materials. We have to work together. So our Prime Minister initiated 3 years ago a program called Innovation Partnership Program, 5 of them represented here, where industry, academia, and governments, the society at large, are working together to develop new solutions. And we have already seen concrete results of this, and that is something that we are very proud of. So I just want to conclude to say that don't remember you're very fortunate to work in this industry. And I think we have a lot of opportunities out there. And we in Sweden certainly want to be a part of the solutions. And it's great to see you here. And I want to once again say thanks to the organizers for having the opportunity to talk here, and also wish you a very productive day, and that you will see a lot of opportunities in this day. Thank you very much.